On this week's Gridiron Report, we have the second round and a trade recap for the Detroit Pistons, plus a tiered ranking of Pistons free agents available. And it's all brought to you by Pins and Aces, our favorite spot for all your golf apparel needs. Use promo code GRIT for 21% off checkout at any product at pinsandaces.com. Let's get into it.
City where the lights grow dim, grit and grind every inch, every rim, from the underdogs rising to the legends that win. It's the Gridiron Report, let the games begin. Every highlight's a journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retire. Gridiron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on blast, beats thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report.
Welcome to the Gridiron Report, your Lions First All Detroit Sports podcast presented by Mic Drop Studios. Today is Wednesday, July 1st, and this is one of those shows where we quite literally have so much to talk about that I'm sure a lot of things are going to get missed. So over the next few weeks, we're going to do our best to circle back and try and cover everything that we didn't get a chance to. But last week, we did our live reactions to the Pistons and who they were taking. They ended up kind of throwing us for a loop, trading up Ibuka Okori. And we kind of had to pick out our opinions on him on the fly and figure out how we were going to do that. The Pistons obviously had no second round pick as of our recording last week. They end up making a trade that we're going to cover here in a minute. We obviously then got back into the second round and took a selection. But let's start with our first round pick, Ibuka Okori. Last week we were, I don't want to say, we were a little bit critical on it. Because we weren't expecting to be trading up for him. We weren't expecting to take him really in general. We both had opinions on him that were a little bit negative. Now that we've had more time to think about the pick itself, how Okori fits into this team, this roster, have your thoughts on him changed whatsoever over the last week or so?
So here's the thing. Like, yeah, I think we were hard on him, but that's just because, we're looking at mock drafts and we see him mocked higher. So like, I think immediately the gut reaction is like, oh, you take a guy at 17 who was mocked higher, you reach, it's like not the right pick. At least that's kind of what my thought process was like in the moment. We literally were recording right in the moment when it happened. And so now, yeah, I've had a week to, really digest it. And honestly, like a lot of it, I will say that I am warming up to this kid. And it's probably just because like all of my like Twitter feed and Instagram feed, like it's all highlights. It's all like the good. And so it's probably impossible for me to sour on this kid more, just given all of the stats, all of the highlights that I've seen this past week. But I will say that, yes, I am very much warming up to the pick itself. Okori definitely, he feels the need. We needed a bucket getter. He is an absolute bucket getter. There are things that I don't necessarily love about him. I think his playmaking needs to improve quite a bit. Like he's very much a, get my shot first, get to the rim first, which is totally not bad. It's pretty much exactly what the Pistons needed. But yeah, I would love to see him being able to spread the ball off a little bit more, especially, his first step is so quick. I do think that if we, surround him with those shooters, that he's going to excel by dishing the rock. So, but yeah, overall, man, like I'm certainly warming up to this pick. 23 points per game, like, we've said it in last week's episode, but, finished top 10 in the nation in scoring. I think he was top 3 among freshmen in scoring. To go with 3.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. Yeah, there is a lot that I like about Ibuka Okori. I'm excited to see him. See him in summer league. I'm definitely excited to see him lead our second unit. I think that's really a natural fit for him right now. But I will say, like, just the tape that I've seen, like, I could see like a natural progression of him working his way into the starting lineup. Maybe not this year, but a few years down the road. I just think he's going to pair really well with Cade Cunningham. So like, yeah, overall, I'm definitely on board. And probably last thing I'll say, I just like that Trajan went and got his guy. Like this, I said it last week, but this was clearly the guy that we wanted all along. We knew he probably wasn't going to fall to 21, or at least we thought he wasn't going to fall to 21. So we go and flip the second rounds that we got from the beef stew trade, I should say, and Trajan got his guy. So yeah, a lot to be seen, but right now I'm certainly warming up to the pick.
I don't think we gave it ranking or grades last week. Now that we had a week to, and I'll get my thoughts here in a second. Now that we've had a week to sit on it, what would you give the grade of Okori?
I'm gonna say, like, super vanilla here. It's a solid B. I think that it's a position of need for sure. He's not your prototype point guard, but I think at the 17 pick or the 21 pick, like you're just not going to get that prototype guy. You gotta take a little bit more of a leap of faith on, a guy like a Corey who's a little bit undersized, but has the wingspan to probably make up for a lot of that undersized. So yeah, solid B. I think that it's far from a home run, but again, like at 17, you're probably not going to get that home run. So yeah, I like the upside a lot. There are definitely some doubts, some things that he can certainly improve upon. Some things that's probably it's impossible to improve upon size, right? But there are things where I think that playmaking, that vision, you can definitely improve. And so yeah, it's not perfect, but yeah, solid B for me.
Yeah, so I'm gonna lead with my grade. Having thought about it, I think primarily my thoughts have remained the same as when they were on draft night, in that I like the player. I like what he can do, because you're right, it does check boxes that we need. I don't necessarily think it was 100, like it was a definite need. We talked about how we need to upgrade at the 2 position. We need to upgrade at the 4 position in order to allow Tobias Harris to go to be the first guy off the bench, the backup 4. And in upgrading those 2 positions, you needed to be able to create scoring opportunities and shooting. So like it does definitely check some boxes. I don't think it's necessarily a pick of absolute need, just because he's gonna most likely be coming off the bench. So like it's more, even though it does check boxes, I think it's a little bit more of a luxury pick as opposed to an absolute need. I'm gonna give it a C just because of that reason alone. I did see, and I said this when we talk about, mostly oftentimes it's about the Red Wings. It's like NHL fans and people online saying like the major thing coming out of this draft was a lot of people comparing Okori to Marcus Sasser. And that's very natural. They're very similar body types. They're very similar height, weight, everything. They're very similar. Like you see one, it's just natural that you're going to be like, oh, we already kind of have that on the roster. And so many people, I just hate when people online are like, so many casuals outing themselves after this draft by comparing Marcus Sasser and Okori. And first of all, I've said this with the NHL before. Don't do that. Don't ever be the person online that's saying like, oh, if that's your opinion on it, like you definitely don't know ball. Like everyone can have opinions. Maybe someone's less informed, and I'll get down to my opinions here in a second on the difference between the two. But like, inform that. You don't have to be like, oh, you don't know ball. Like stop gatekeeping other fans there. But I did do a little more research onto like the Marcus Sasser and Okori kind of comparison, and really the reasons they don't overlap is because their overall size is really the only thing that's similar between them. Marcus Sasser, coming out of college, was like a 22-year-old. He was already someone who went through 4 years with Houston, so he was already a little bit older. Just an absolute dead-eye shooter and somebody that's going to get his shot. Sometimes he can get overwhelmed off the dribble and sometimes can get into some trouble there. But it was an undersized guard who can absolutely shoot and was pretty good at defense. In college, he was really good at defense. He's a little bit undersized, so his defense isn't as great in the league, but it's still better. How Okori differs is that Okori is not the lethal shooter that Marcus Sasser is. He's more of an on-ball guy and likes to play off the dribble and is so creative with the ball in his hand, more like a Kemba Walker or an Isaiah Thomas. There was comparisons to Gilbert Arenas, like an attacking downhill guard who can put immense pressure on the rim, but doesn't necessarily shoot as good as Marcus Sasser. So while I agree with most of the thoughts out there that like, yeah, these guys are not the same character, I also had to look into it and say like, yeah, okay, they're not the same character. They're not the same players. They're not overlapping. I do think there's a little bit of a log jam now because I just don't think, even though they do different things, you probably can't roll into next year with Dennis Jenkins, Marcus Sasser, and Ibuka Okori, but they definitely do different things. So I've come around to it a little bit, and that is going to help, but I just think there's more holes in this team that we needed to address. Again, I kind of equate it to like the Lions going out and getting, like neglecting edge when everyone knows we need an edge rusher, but like technically they went out and filled another hole that we needed, just probably wasn't the number one hole I would have tried to fill first and foremost. So I'm going to give it a C, and I'm going to stick there. I will say, I bet you Okori just absolutely lights up Summer League. I bet he averages like 20, 26, yeah. 27, like video game numbers.
Dude, he's sick. He is sick, man. And yeah, like the comparison, you broke down the comparisons. If I could even say that word, I'm not even going to try anymore. To Marcus Sasser. Marcus Sasser was a 16 point per game as like a 22-year-old in Houston. And yeah, Corey 23 points per game as a 18, 19-year-old. So yeah, it's just he's just a straight up, he's a better player than Marcus Sasser, and the reason why Marcus Sasser went in like middle second round, and Corey's sitting there at 17 getting drafted. So yeah, I see the comparisons, but yeah, it's just it's not the same player. And yeah, but for anyone that says like, oh, if you don't agree, then you don't know ball. Like I hate that too. Like that's just it's lazy narrative. Like we're all trying to know ball. No one's perfect. No one's the expert, right? So yeah, I just want to say that.
Yeah. Okay, so we broke down Okori a lot more last week. Again, we had to scramble a little bit because neither you nor I were really expecting us to trade up to get him, let alone take him in first place, let alone trade up to get him. So we broke him down a little bit more last week. If you want more information on what some of his deeper numbers, how he fits with the team in our live reactions, go back to last week's episode. But we didn't going into the draft last week. We didn't have a second round pick in the draft. The Pistons that make a trades. We had 2 trades to cover, starting with the first one during draft night. So what we did trade, and you alluded to it, to go up and get a Corey. We traded 3 second round picks, 2 technically over to Memphis. Memphis ended up there was another deal. It was involved with the Thunder and Bennett Sturts, and it was a whole big thing. We traded 3. We switched picks. I think it was 17 for 21 and 3 second round picks. We then traded and got those second round picks right back by trading out Isaiah Stewart. So Isaiah Stewart, the first of the core, if you will, of this new rejuvenated Pistons team to be shipped out. I believe he was the first Piston to be extended in almost like 15 years or something, or Pistons rookie to be extended in almost 15 or 20 years back when he got extended like 2 or 3 years ago.
That's so sad, by the way.
That in itself is
shows
sad.
how
I remember
insanely moronic we are. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. And at the time, it was actually a really good deal because he's always, and I want to break it down just a little bit, and then we'll kind of get to our thoughts on him. He was always kind of an in-betweener. So he's 6'8". He's not technically, he plays almost primarily the 5, almost always a 5. There was a short amount of time because he could technically space the floor a little bit, shoot the 3 ball, that we tried him out at the 4 position. I think that would have been like a perfect world if you could have had him stick at the 4, space the floor with his shooting ability, also get his tenacity, his defense, and there's rim protecting in there alongside a big 7'5", or 7'5" position guy next to him. Never really worked out. He was primarily a 5, standing just 6'8", so he was a little bit of an in-betweener. But he was some of that, like, he loved Detroit. He was, we point to, Penei Sewell and a few of those other guys, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who really embodied the Detroit Lions and like really embodied the turnaround and gave us the identity for the football team. Isaiah Stewart, I mean, the longest tenured Piston on roster, he was exactly what Detroit was looking for. And without him, you don't get this sort of turnaround that Detroit, the city in general, because he definitely played a role into like continuing the Lions grittiness and continuing just the city of Detroit's grittiness. Like, I don't think you get what Detroit is now without Isaiah Stewart. So I'll get to my thoughts on like the trade itself, but to see him go, it's a difficult one. It's difficult for me to see him go.
It's tough, man. You mentioned it, but yeah, dude, longest tenured Detroit Piston. That's crazy, man. 6 seasons, 10 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, and then a block and a half, which led the team in blocks. Just your prototype versatile defender. Just meet you at the rim. Smash mouth basketball. It's man. It's everyone loves Beef Stew. I will say, like, he has probably become a bit of a liability at times. Like if he gets into another fight, like Silver's gonna be trying to make an example out of him wherever he can. We're probably talking 10, 15 games minimum if he ever messes up again, like he has in the past. So I don't know. I don't want to read too much into his fighting as like a reason why he's gone, but it is probably just a one smaller element. But I think like the bigger thing, it's clear Trajan Langdon is saying, okay, this rim protector, it's not a position of need that we need right now. At least not nearly as much as having like perimeter shooting. Or a second ball handler, which obviously flipped those picks to trade up for Okori or second ball handler or third ball handler, however you want to see it. But yeah, it's just like we need to prioritize shooting, ball handling over rim protection. So you can't do it all. You obviously can't just make the perfect team. The salary cap's there for a reason. But yeah, $15 million off the books by trading Isaiah Stewart. Creating you get that trade exception. You get the mid-level exception, which I always have to remind myself what that means, and I'm in the circle where like I have forgotten it. I've taught myself a lot, and then definitely forgotten. So maybe you can fill the listeners in on exactly what that flexibility is giving us. But yeah, it's certainly giving us more flexibility.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much. It gets very convoluted. So the Pistons can either act as an over the salary cap team or an under the salary cap team with each of those. But basically, if you're operating under you're allowed to maneuver and pay guys different amounts and move that way. If you're operating over, there's different restrictions, and it's basically just how you operate your team. So this allows us to essentially the 15 million that Isaiah Stewart is going to make, and it allows us to make a trade and basically accept somebody's salary without having it count against our books. And I think I might be wrong on this because it got very kind of confusing. I believe we swapped our first round picks with Memphis and sent them two or three second round picks, and then they sent us our picks right back for the Isaiah Stewart trade. So we end up getting those picks back, and then we end up using those picks in another trade that we'll get into here in a second. So I think it kind of was just like here, hold these picks for us for a second, and then we send it right back for Isaiah Stewart. But Isaiah Stewart, so some of his numbers in his at least his last year here in Detroit, when obviously he was the best rim protector in the league. He was a guy that wasn't afraid to meet somebody at the rim. Because he was able, he did that. He wasn't afraid to get absolutely yammed on every now and again by a guy, who is able to get up and over his arm. But most of the time, he was able to meet them at the rim. He had 10 points per game this past year, only 5 rebounds per game, 1.1 assist. But then, like you mentioned, 1.9 stocks per game, which is it's just crazy. With him, it was interesting because he had such a great year, and obviously he was up for potential defensive player of the year. He got 7 sixth man of the year votes because he was coming off the bench. I agree with you in that his temper was always a little bit iffy. He's now in the range where like if he's even involved, like looking at a guy the wrong way and there's some sort of dust up, he's gonna get pretty much the worst of the worst anyone involved because of his reputation. So that's going to start affecting him. The other thing was that he was not efficient and effective in the playoffs. And this is 2 years in a row he wasn't. He obviously was hurt last year against the Knicks and couldn't play at all. This year, he had one game that he went crazy with, like 8 blocks or something like that. And then he didn't have another single block for at least a whole nother series. And after the season, like people had to continuously ask the front office, like, hey, what is Isaiah Stewart hurt? And over and over and over again, they're like, no. If you look back, there was a play after the eight block game. He went up for a block and kind of came down and his knee buckled a little bit. You never want to speculate, but I don't, he's had issues with his knees for quite some time. And I would not be surprised if just the way he plays with the violence that he plays at and the passion he plays in, I personally don't trust his knees to be all that great for the next few years. And then the other thing about it is that if you didn't know this, Isaiah Stewart is a farmer. He has I think an apricot farm, I believe, some sort of fruit farm over on the West Coast that he has a bunch of farmhands handle during the season. That's what he loves to do. Like in the off season, he goes out there and he just farms every day. And that's like what his passion is. He just happens to also be 6'8" and great at blocking shots. So like along with his knees that aren't super great and his passion, the energy he plays with and kind of the hair on fire energy he has, pair that with his true love for farming. I don't know, dude. He's only 25, 26 years old. I wouldn't be surprised if he's, taking an early retirement based on how much he's getting banged up, meeting people at the rim, and just go out and farm in the next 4 years. So it does suck to see him go, but I get it. I get why they had to do it. I didn't exactly see it coming. If it happened, I was hoping to get a little bit more, but it did pave the way for this next trade we can get to here in a second. But those are just my thoughts on like seeing Isaiah go, what it means for the city. I know Jalen Duren and him were best friends. They considered each other brothers. So I'm sure Jalen, and we can get to Jalen here, probably next week. We don't even have time today. I'm sure the team was upset about it, but yeah, I want nothing but the best for Isaiah Stewart.
Yeah, for sure, man. You broke it down perfectly. But yeah, his last 5 games in the playoffs, 4 points, 4 points, 8 points, 0 points, 3 points. So yeah, just seeming like he kind of dropped off. I mean, obviously his minutes were down too in the playoffs too, which like you alluded, it could have been a number of things, right? Even though, the Pistons front office is saying he wasn't hurt at all, but you never know. Yeah, would have loved to get a first round pick for sure. When I saw it was just for 3 seconds, my knee jerk reaction was, what the hell? We got fleeced. But now we kind of zoom out and dive into it a little bit more, and yeah, it does kind of make sense. He's not quite the caliber of player that you would probably get a first rounder for. So wish him nothing but the best. I hope he has success. But yeah, it's our team is pivoting and saying like, hey, last year was not good enough. We struggled in the playoffs. We have gaping holes, glaring holes, and we got to fill them somehow. So hopefully we can, when we break down free agency, hopefully this team is going to go and get more shooters and really, evolve as a team to space out the floor. Right now, I don't think we have quite enough. So, but yeah, all the best to Beef Stew.
Yeah, and the last thing I want to say is that I agree with you. I was underwhelmed by the package we got in return for him. And it did pave the way for a trade I'll get to here in a second. But we did almost immediately, because that got us back into the second round that we obviously had traded out of. We did almost immediately go and get his replacement in the second round. So we ended up taking in the second round Ugonna Onyenso. He is technically out of Nigeria. He's kind of bounced around in college for a few years. 6'11", 225-pound center. He started his college career at Kentucky, played at Kentucky for 2 years, then transferred to Kansas State, and then finished up his senior year last year at Virginia as a senior. He is an elite rim protector. Basically, we traded out our rim protector for another rim protector, which I kind of like. As I saw that, I was like, okay, it's not like the end of the world, because obviously you're kind of left with Jalen Duren, who's definitely not a rim protector, has somewhat the size, is like 6'10", 6'11", but not a rim protector. B-Ball Paul, which is just definitely not a rim protector, kind of just a chaos on the court as your backup center. So they bring in Onyensa in the second round to be the elite defensive minded center. Last year, he had an absurd 2.9 blocks per game, which is absolutely crazy. Like he's okay. He's not very good offensively. 6.5 points per game last year. Rebound wise, he again doesn't necessarily rebound the heck out of the ball. Just 4.9 rebounds per game, but he just blocks shots nonstop. Like you come into the paint, he alters shots, and so I like that we were able to say, okay, he's a second round pick. Maybe he won't stick around, but at least let's take a flyer on him to try and replace Isaiah Stewart. He had, I think it was 9 blocks in one game against Duke in the ACC championship game, against Cam Boozer, and the number 3 overall draft pick in the ACC championship game. So while it did hurt to see Isaiah Stewart, I'm glad that they absolutely just went ahead and essentially maybe picked up a defensive replacement for all those block shots, because 2.9 blocks per game in college basketball is, I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah, and I would say that it's definitely a huge maybe. I'd see this guy being like, at best probably a two-way guy who plays a handful of games maybe his rookie year. But yeah, you never know. You never know how he's going to develop as well. But yeah, I mean, 7 feet, 245. And yeah, 2.9 blocks, like you mentioned, in just 18 and a half minutes per game. Like that's insane, man. I mean, this kid is playing less than half the game, still almost leading the entire nation in blocks. Yeah. Set an ACC single tournament record, 21 blocks. It's insane, man. So you never, yeah, like you said, absolute flyer. He's the 53rd pick for a reason, right? But you never know how he's gonna pan out, and he could be a diamond in the rough. But yeah, it's to be seen. At any rate, I think even if he plays in just like 10, 15 games rookie year, he's still gonna be an interior presence. So it's better than nothing for sure.
And the last thing I'll say about Ugonna Onyenso, you watch his shot. His shot is pretty crisp. He shot the 3 ball at like 28%, which isn't great. But when you look at his shot form, he did a good amount of pick and pops and just kind of made his way out to the 3-point line. His shot his form is very clean. So I'm just saying, keep an eye on him. I don't know if there was a Taco Bell commercial going on while we drafted him. I don't know exactly, but keep an eye on Yenso. I might be eating my words here in 4 years when he never ends up playing a single game for us. But keep an eye on him with his shot blocking ability and his very clean looking shooting form. There's something there.
It's definitely cleaner than probably the majority of 7-footers. I'll give you that for sure. And yeah, and 73% from the free throw line too. So like it's obviously he has a pretty decent stroke. So yeah, we will see. Like we said, 53rd pick. It's a flyer. I think we got him. Did we get him for cash, or I don't? Maybe we gave
did.
Up.
Yes.
Yeah. So
we ended up paying the New York Knicks for their second round pick, which is, I mean, so it's no harm. Money is, Tom Gore is one of the most richest owners in sports. No harm, no foul. Yeah, we ended up buying this pick from the Knicks. So the Knicks gave us essentially a replacement for Isaiah Stewart defensively. So we'll see how that, hopefully, fingers crossed, comes back to bite them in the ass. I don't know. Who knows? Okay, so the other trade that happened after we recorded, again, this is one of the episodes where we have so many things to cover that we're not going to get into it. I'll be able to get into everything. Detroit also goes ahead and at least tries to address some of their other holes in the roster, and that's for trading. Then when they traded for Isaiah Joe. So Isaiah Joe is a guy that he has been, at least in my opinion, and a few of the podcasts I listen to, a lot of the Pistons stuff that we talk about or I listen to and read about, Isaiah Joe is somebody that absolutely I've been looking at for quite some time. I think he's someone that can help this team immediately. So the Detroit Pistons trading for Isaiah Joe for 2 second-round picks to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Isaiah Joe, 26 years old. He is 6'4". He is essentially one of the best 3-point shooters in the entire NBA. He is somebody that he's going to step in. I don't know if he's going to step in immediately into the starting lineup. He didn't start for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He played all in 71 games, started just 9 games last year. That's not a normal team, right? The Oklahoma City Thunder are one of the best teams, and I would argue one of the best teams in NBA history. So he didn't start for them, but last year his numbers for the Thunder, 11.1 points per game, 6 3-point attempts per game, and shot 42% from 3. So again, one of the most efficient 3-point shooters in the entire NBA. Is decent off the dribble, not super great, not super bad though. Defensively, has some issues. He's truly just like a 3-point specialist who can go out and get his shot. So it's just another flyer I shouldn't say a flyer, another hole that Detroit's trying to address with the Isaiah Joe trade. That again, kind of for 2 second-round picks, I think this is an absolute home run for Detroit.
Dude, it's a steal. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we were bitching at all about the beef stew trade, like this is the exact opposite of that in my opinion. Like, yeah, it's a home run. 2 second-rounders for Isaiah Joe. I mean, it was very much just a salary dump for the Thunder. Just like
Right.
they have too many guys, right? Too many bodies. So needed to get rid of. And yeah, I think we got him for a very, very good price. So yeah, obviously not perfect, but I do think I don't know, I don't know, to your point, if he's going to start every game for the Pistons, but I do think that there's going to be quite a few games that he starts, and even if he doesn't start, he's coming off the bench early, and yeah, he's definitely contributing. 42% from 3. It's exactly what we needed. Just a guy similar to a Duncan Robinson, who I believe Duncan started every game for us last year. So probably similar players, but both guys that can shoot the lights out, and that's never a bad thing. So yeah, I was pumped, man. And yeah, he was only like 26 years old, right? So still right in the prime of his career, shooting great. Yeah, if that defense can improve at all, I think this is a home run. I'm excited to see what Isaiah Joe can do in a Pistons uniform, and I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a step forward in terms of like points per game. He's been hovering around that like 10, 11 points per game. Like, I could see him taking that jump up to that 14 territory and being a real contributor. So I'm pumped for this.
I think that's a great point, because I agree completely with you that it does seem that anyone that plays alongside Cade, their numbers start to balloon a little bit, because Cade does such a great job scoring himself, but also getting guys involved. Isaiah Joe is playing up alongside SGA. Like, SGA is getting to the line, he's flopping, he's going to try and get his shots up. He's an incredible offensive player, but SGA is not helping you be the best player you can be, like Cade Cunningham is. Now, I will say, now that people are, Isaiah Joe's here in Detroit, people are saying, okay, now, even before this, but like especially now, people are saying that Duncan Robinson is expendable. I want to say, like, I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I think that this, just because we got Isaiah Joe does not mean Duncan Robinson is expendable. I think you were one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the NBA last year, and Duncan Robinson, if we didn't have Duncan, we would have been screwed. Just because we technically got a Duncan Robinson replacement doesn't mean that's going to, and then we get rid of Duncan Robinson, that puts us exactly what we were last year with not enough 3-point shooting. So I think, of all people, Duncan should be one of the ones that you can't move on from, because you need that 3-point shooting. You need, whether Duncan's in the starting lineup and Isaiah Joe's on the bench, or vice versa, or they're both coming off the bench, you need a minimum. Right now you have like 2 different guys that you probably have to really respect from 3, and Duncan's one of them. So adding Isaiah Joe, 100%, it's a beautiful move for this front office. I'm so happy about it. It makes the Isaiah Stewart trade, the pill a little bit easier to swallow. But by no means does this mean, in my opinion, that Duncan Robinson is now available. Contrary to what I've seen a lot of people say online. I think you need both of them, because you need that scoring.
I'm with you, man. You absolutely need that scoring. You need that floor spacing. You're adding. You add. Let's just say that Joe keeps up that 11 points per game, 12 points per game, whatever it is. Duncan's right at 12 points per game. You have a Corey who you drafted, who, let's say he comes off the bench, gives you like 9 or 10 per game. Like, that's quite a bit more scoring that you have added to your arsenal. And not just in the starting lineup. I think that second unit is really where guys struggled at times for us. And yeah, you had guys pop off occasionally, like a Karis LeVert, but overall, I feel like our second unit struggled last year, even compared to like the Pistons' second unit of 2 years ago, which I thought was a lot stronger with like, your Malik Beasley's, which, yeah, we'll probably get to Malik next week's episode, but RIP there. But yeah, man, I think that, adding, like I said, like we're obviously transitioning a little bit away from our focus on defense, trading a guy like Beef Stew and focusing a little bit more on floor spacing and offense, which is exactly what we needed. So if we're taking, a slight step back on defense, but we take a bigger step forward on offense, this team is improving, and we're going in the right direction. That's exactly what we need. So yeah, I'm ecstatic. It's for 2 second-round picks too. Like, absolutely ecstatic from this.
You saw people online that were like, seriously, 2 second-round picks? Like, that's all it took? Like, what the fuck? Why couldn't we have gone out and do that? Like, come on, are you serious? Yeah, so I absolutely love that. Okay, so we have so much more to... That's just everything essentially that's happened since last week's episode. That probably could have been an episode in itself. We do have free agency starting. When you're listening to this, it will have already started. Free agency starts on Tuesday, the 30th at 6 p.m., I believe. So when you're listening to this on Wednesday, free agency will have already started, and there will probably be a lot more information out there that we don't have at the moment. But we do have a little fun tiered game for the fans here. So we're going to cut to a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to get to tiering up the different options that free agency that Detroit Pistons can go after. All right, we are back. So up to this point, we have discussed essentially everything Detroit has done with the draft, with some trades. I don't expect them to be done with the trades. There's still a lot more options out there. Still have the Tyler Hero stuff, have a few more days that trade could be expanded. You still have Trey Murphy, in which Troy Weaver seems to be sticking to his guns and demanding 3 to 4 first-round picks for the guy. You have a whole bunch of other guys. Zach LaVine has been brought up in trade stuff. So there's a lot of different trades that still could happen. But what we do know is free agency starts on Tuesday, the 30th at, I believe, 6 p.m. So, Kyle, what we have for the fans, we have a number of, I think we have 9 or 10 different guys that have been commonly linked to Detroit in free agency. I believe all of these guys are unrestricted free agents, because when you get into restricted free agencies, then it gets a little more difficult with will the team match, will the team let them walk? It gets a little more difficult. So it's just the unrestricted, 100% free agents that have been linked to Detroit. Let's go through and tier rank them in how we would see them fit with Detroit, whether we like it, whether it's a home run, something that's not someone that we actually want here in Detroit. So let's go ahead and let's start with our first guy. This is the first one on our list right here, and that's going to be actually a reunion for Detroit, starting out with Luke Kennard, the former Duke player, the Detroit Pistons draft pick, over guys like Donovan Mitchell, even though Donovan Mitchell came in, had a workout with the Pistons, didn't miss a single shot, and then we still passed on him to take Luke Kennard. I digress. Luke Kennard has had a very long, successful career in the NBA. Was very successful with Detroit on a bad Detroit team, but has gone on to just be like that guy that is very valuable constantly at the trade deadline. So you see it kind of gets passed around quite a bit, because every team, he's a guy that every team would want to add while they're making their playoff push, but yet, not necessarily someone that you want to really build around. So Luke Kennard, let's start with him. If we were to add Luke Kennard to this team free agency wise, and let's just go off of the basis that like all these contracts are going to be nothing's going to be crazy. You got guys on here that could demand a little bit more of larger of a contract. Let's just go off the idea that like it's all going to be relatively normal contracts for these guys. Luke Kennard, what are your thoughts on him? Where would you put him ranking if he was the free agent acquisition?
Yeah, so you mentioned the contracts. I just want to dive into that just a little bit. I am basing some of my tiering off of that 15 million mid-level exception, just because exception. I think that's like the sweet spot. Like if we're going and getting one guy, it's probably a 15 million per year or less to fit under that. So some of these guys fit amazing in that. Some it's like fringe, and we may need to potentially have a sign and trade or something like that. So there are, like you said, there's a ton of nuances. We don't even pretend to be the experts there, but I am basing that a little bit. So for Luke Kennard, I think that he's very much under that MLE. We could probably get him for maybe 8 mil, 9 mil a year, 10, somewhere around there. I'm gonna put him B tier. It's he obviously is just an absolute flamethrower. But given that we have Joe, as of right now we still have Duncan Robinson. It's just like that skill set of like a 3-and-D type guy. It just seems like he's not fitting exactly where we need right now. But just given that you could still get him for value, you have that reunion obviously drafted by the Pistons. That's that's certainly something. 44% from three over his career is just like it's like I would have probably put C tier, but 44% is 44%. So yeah, he averages 8-9 points a game. So he would be awesome coming off the bench, role player. It's just like I think right now we have added that skill set, and we probably need a little bit more out of like a wing guy, a two guard, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I'm firmly in B tier.
If we would have asked me before the Isaiah Joe trade where Luke Kennard would be, I think he would be high B. Maybe if I'm being a little bit, I'm thinking about this a little bit, maybe it could have been talked into like an A. But since the Isaiah Joe trade, I think, and we talked about how Isaiah and then Duncan Robinson, you can have a flamethrower on the bench and off the bench, or off the bench and in the starting lineup. I'm a little bit less high on Luke just because, like you said, he's already kind of filled a little bit, but you literally can never have too many 3-point shooters at 6'5". Last year you mentioned 44, almost 45% from three, not on super high volume, 3-pointer attempts a game. So a decent volume, not super high. I think Isaiah Joe had 6 3-point attempts per game. So that's like all he did. Luke does a little bit more than that. I'm gonna go with, I agree. Let's put him at B tier because I think it would be a little bit luxury. So let's put him at the B tier because I think because he's 6'5", maybe you could play him at the 3. I know Duncan is like 6'7", so you could technically change how these guys are, the positions they're playing, and I think he could be someone that you could add into here. I'm with you on the B tier. It would be someone I'm not mad about. If he was the only one that we ended up going with, I would be a little bit frustrated, but like I wouldn't be mad adding him. He definitely wouldn't hurt this team. Okay, let's go with the next guy here on our list. That is Norm Powell. Norm Powell from the Miami Heat. He's a guy, I believe he's 32 or so years old. I feel like he's had a little bit of a resurgence in his career as of late. He was an All-Star last year. Kind of fell off a little bit after the All-Star break. His numbers really started to drop after he was an All-Star, and I think Miami Heat fans noticed that, and so I think a lot of people are talking about Norm Powell and what he would do for a team. Miami Heat fans are like, well, maybe slowly roll on him a little bit, guys. But obviously the Miami Heat are in this huge transition phase with the addition of Giannis Antetokounmpo, the trading away of Tyler Hero. You have Andrew Wiggins, I believe, just opted in, so they're trying to build around Wiggins, Bam, and Giannis. Is Norm Powell a part of that operation? Yet to be seen. Norm Powell, adding him to this team, I think he's someone that like does exactly what Detroit needs. He can create for himself. He can play off the dribble. He can play on the dribble. He can shoot the 3 ball. He does everything you need. I think the only downside with Norm Powell would be a little bit his age. He's obviously a little bit older, and probably he's going to be one of the more expensive contracts on this list if you're able to get him. I think he'd be a little bit more than maybe the MLE. Maybe you could get him there, yet to be seen. But I think other than his age and maybe his price, I think Norm Powell is almost exactly what you need on this team if you do trust what we saw from the first half of last year as opposed to the second half after the All-Star break when his efficiency definitely took a drop.
Yeah, this guy's a stud, man. Like, yeah, 22 points per game this season, like you said. Yeah, All-Star. I'm very high on him. I think the only reason, like you said, yeah, the contract might not work. I think if you could somehow get him for a discount at that 15 mil per year, it would be an absolute smash. I just think even though he's 32 years old, he's got a lot left in the tank. And so, like, if you sign into like a 3-year deal, it's probably going to be closer to that 18, 20 mil. Maybe even a little bit higher. So I'm still, I don't know about you. You can talk me down a little bit. I have him at an S tier. I just feel like he is like the best player on our list and absolutely does fill a number of holes. Yeah, I would say I would call him elite 3-point shooting. Maybe, not so much as like Luke Kennard, but he's also, shot creator as well. He can move with or without the ball. Yeah, still 40% from 3 on high volume too. Yeah, I just feel like he's the best shooting guard bar none on our list. And yeah, 32 years old, meaning that his window his timeline is just shorter. Like he's probably going to fall off a little bit, but yeah, I think you still have a couple good years left. Pairing Powell with a guy like Joe or a guy like Duncan Robinson, I mean, that's spacing out the floor exactly what we need. Allowing Cade to really get into the paint, do his thing, hit up Powell for 3. Joe, Robinson, whatever. Like I really would love our lineup, and if we could make it work financially, we are sitting pretty. So yeah, I'm feeling S tier.
I'm 100% with you on S tier. If you can tell me that like his production, like after the All-Star break, his numbers dropped pretty drastically. and to a point where like he was almost unplayable. So if you can promise me, yeah, he's gonna average somewhat of like the first half of the season, I'm with you on S tier because I'm just thinking he started every game this last 2 years. He played in 60 games 2 years ago for the Clippers, started all 60, played in 58 games last year for the Heat. Actually just started 52, didn't start in all of them last year. But so he would slide into the starting position at his age. So you have Cade at the one, Norm at the two. Then you start getting creative. Maybe you go Duncan at the three, Asar at the four, someone at the five, or Duran at the five. Maybe you Asar at the three, and you get a different guy at the four, and then Duran at the five. So, okay. For the sake of this argument and like the other guys we have on our list, I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna say S here just because I think he does exactly what you need him to do here in Detroit. The only downsides being, like we said, his age and potentially his the contract. But if we can make the money work, I think he'd be a slam dunk. Like if you got Isaiah Joe coming off the bench and Norm Powell in the starting lineup, that's a lot of 3-point shooting, and you retain Duncan Robinson. That's a lot of 3-point shooting, and I trust that team a lot. So let's do it. Let's put him at S tier. I like that. I feel comfortable with that.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so let's keep moving forward. The next guy that we have on our list that's been connected to Detroit quite a few times in free agency, that's going to be Colin Sexton, 6'3". He is very much a point guard, shooting guard who is going to get his shot this past year for Chicago. Played in just 26 games, but he averaged 17.5 points per game. Shot the three ball at 41%. So if you can tell, there's quite a theme going across all these guys that we've been connected to. Shot the three ball really well on pretty good volume, 5.2 3 points per game. But then assists, 2.5 assists, 1.5 steals per game, so a little bit defensively. But he is primarily just going to be a guy that you bring in to be most likely your two guard next to Cade, if not maybe your starting point, backup point guard. But based on how the roster is kind of circled about, if you're not getting Norm with an S tier, Colin would slide in there at the two position. I think for me, Colin Sexton, especially how we've done and operated with this team so far. In this offseason, how we filled it, I'm going back and forth between B and C here.
I'm higher on Colin Sexton. I think I will talk you into a B. I just the thing. I guess there are a few concerns for me. Like again, a little bit undersized. He's definitely more ball dominant. So yeah, if you're slotting him in at the two guard, Cade, obviously, I wouldn't necessarily call Cade like, oh, he needs to have the ball, but like he's just so good that he naturally always has the ball, and his usage is so high. So I do think that taking Cade off ball a bit could help, but at any rate, like that's probably my only reserve with Colin Sexton. But yeah, like 40% from three in stretches, he can really do a lot. 15 and a half, 16 points per game. And he's just, a downhill guy, 3-level scorer. I guess kind of similar to like, a Corey who you just drafted, can definitely score at all 3 levels. And I think that he would complement, a Duncan Robinson or a Joe who's like spaced out. Colin Sexton's more like get to the rim, can also dish and can also spread. So he can do a lot. It's just that I think we are kind of stacking up similar guards at that point to a guy that you just drafted like a Corey. But I would be good with putting him in B tier, especially, we talk about the contract. I think you could easily get him at or under that MLE. So I think there's a lot of value for what you're getting for a guy who's just 27 years old.
That's my main point is I agree with you. I think he's sometimes like a one-trick pony, and that's just scoring, which isn't a bad thing. Like we need other scorers on this team because Cade seemed to need to do it all during the playoffs. So like that's not bad. But then I also very much agree with you that like we're kind of starting to stack a few of those guys up that with the Corey. I think if you went somewhere else in the draft, Colin Sexton would be a solid in a B tier for me, not like needing to be talked into it. So I think. I'm with you. If you feel confident, like I said, I was bouncing back and forth between a B and a C. If you're confident on a B, let's put him at B tier, and hope that like he's again just like we were talking about some other guys. Cade brings out the best in him, and he's able to force Cade off the ball a little bit, which we've seen work when guys like Dennis are in the game. We can get the best there. So let's put him at B tier. I like that there.
Nice.
All right, so now we have a few of the. We had kind of the three similar guys in a row, similar different types of archetype of player. Let's change a little bit, and that's an archetype that we kind of already have addressed in Isaiah Joe. Let's switch to the other need. I think there's one more possibly in that same type of player, but let's switch to the other need that Detroit needs or has at the moment, and that's going to be Rui Hachimura. Rui Hachimura is 6'8", was formerly with the Los Angeles Lakers, would solidly be sliding in at the starting 4 position. Last year for the Lakers, played in 68 games, started 41 of them, 11.5 points per game. He is one of, I believe, 2 players to average 40% three-point shooting over the last 3 or 4 years. So just an elite three-point shooter, average almost 4 attempts per game. Just as much of a floor spacer as these other guys, but that would be coming at the 4 position. You would confidently be able to push Tobias Harris to the backup 4 position and feel comfortable about that. The issue with Rui Hachimura, his defense is not good. Granted, we have quite a lot of insulation around him with, Asar Thompson being the best defender in the league, with Cade Cunningham, when he wants to be a good defender, is a really good defender, standing at 6'6". You maybe can add another defender to try and offset that a little bit, but an elite 3-point floor spacing for Detroit and Rui Hachimura. Where do you want to slide him? Where are you thinking about sliding him?
Yeah, I'm very high on Rui Hachimura. I'm honestly between an A and an S right now. So if you want to talk me down from there, that's totally fine. Yeah, the defense is a concern. Streaky shot creation at times, but I think overall this is exactly what you need, like a replacement for Tobias Harris, or maybe not a replacement, but if Tobias is primarily coming off the bench now, that starting power forward, it's exactly what we need, and a guy who can still stretch out the floor, like you said, above 40% from 3 the last 3 seasons, career high from 3 last season. Like he really is blossoming into a very good stretch 4. He is exactly what we need. So I'm between A, as he's going to be expensive, maybe along the same lines of like a Norm Powell, where he probably is going to be above that mid-level exception. I don't know if we can get it done, but assuming we could make the numbers work, I'm pretty high on Rui.
I'm not going to go with S on him just because his defense is so, if he had just minimum defense where it's I don't feel like we need to insulate around him. Granted, we kind of already had that with Asar, and maybe we need Duren to step up, but we would need Duren to step up a little defensively. So I'm not going to feel comfortable putting him at S, but I think we put him at A because, like we said, I think offensively he's the floor spacing you need, and then we have enough defensive minded guys around him that you feel comfortable with him in the starting lineup. Again, that would allow you to push Tobias to the backup spot, the perfect role for him, and I would feel really, really good going into next season. So you want to settle with an A on him?
I'm good with A.
Okay. So far we have Norm Powell in the S, Rui Hachimura in the A, Luke Kennard and Colin Sexton in the B. We have a few more guys here. Let's go with very similar. Let's jump around a little bit here. Very similar to Rui. A lot of times, kind of, I thought at one point that we were going to be at least end up with one of these guys. Very similar kind of guys, and that's John Collins. Thoughts on John Collins and how he maybe differs from Rui Hachimura? Where would you put him if he was going to be the guy that we bring in to push Tobias to the backup position to be our starting 4? Dude,
before we get into Collins real quick, I was just, not that I was podcasting and texting by any means, but I did pull up my phone real quick. This broke, I think, basically right when we started recording. There was a lot of rumors going around. Jalen Duren is going to meet with the Sacramento Kings at the start of free agency to talk about a sign and trade. I don't know if you've seen that. Maybe I'm late to the party on that too, but most of the tweets were from basically a half hour ago.
Yeah, it broke while we were here recording. Something involving Domantas Sabonis. I don't believe it. I still think Duren will be a Piston this time. And when you guys listen to this, I might be crazy. We might have had a change, but I did see that. Yeah, so something to monitor for sure.
Okay. Gotcha.
But John Collins, 6'9". He is currently with the, I believe the Clippers. Free agent last year. He averaged 13.6 per game, 3.2 3-point attempts per game, 40% from 3. So again, similar to Rui, a really good floor spacing 4, even better than Tobias Harris was for us. Doesn't do that much other than 5.3 rebounds per game. He's someone very similar to Rui in that his defense is not going to be good. I think John Collins is a little more positionless than Rui. I think John Collins is better off being the 5, but he kind of has the size of a 4. Offensively, he's a 4, but it's very confusing. Thoughts on John Collins, where he would fit on this tiered ranking list?
I just feel like his production has kind of gone down a little bit, and like you can look at like his minutes played is also probably decreasing, so that could be a part of it. Maybe a bit of injury concern too. I'm just kind of looking at the negatives right now. Only played 40 games in the 2024 season. 69 games, 68 games, and the sandwich in between those two. So I think that we could probably get him at mid-level exception or lower. I just feel like his market probably isn't quite as high. I'm lower on him than I am on like a Rui Hachimura. So I'm kind of in more the B or C territory. He does do a lot. I mean, I like that. He's still 40% from 3, stretch big. He is probably everything we need. It's just that for me, it's the injury concerns and the production concerns. Like, is he going downhill a little bit? I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I'm between like B, C tier for John Collins.
He's someone that, like, the box score, as we just read it off, 40% from 3, 11 double-digit points per night. So, like, his box score always is pretty good, but his efficiency isn't that. It kind of tells a different story. Like we said, poor defender, a below-average rebounder, kind of moderate volume. He's just something that, like, when you look at his efficiency, the numbers and when he's on and off the court for the team around him aren't super great, and that's kind of always been the stigma that follows him. So, I feel you want to throw him at a C. I think I feel pretty good with C.
I'm good with C.
Okay. All right, so let's wrap up here. We got a few more guys. I don't think we're going to get to all of them. We're already sitting at about 50 minutes on the episode. Let's go with our next 2 guys, or at least next guy, a real quick one. We don't have to go too far into that, and that's going to be Dean Wade. Dean Wade, someone that we just played in the playoffs for the Cleveland Cavaliers, someone that I think does somewhat of what you need here in Detroit, but I think his time in Cleveland kind of showed exactly his limitations. 6'9". He averages 5.8 points per game, just 4.2 rebounds per game. Does shoot the 3 ball he shot 36% this past year. Historically has been a better 3-point shooter than that. The year before that, or 36% the year before that, but the year before that, 39%. So he has been shown to be a decent 3-point floor spacer as a 4 guard. Again, 6'9". We don't have to go into super great detail, but Dean Wade, any thoughts at all on Dean Wade? I know he's been tied a few times to Detroit. Where would you put him here?
This feels like C tier to me. This is a guy that obviously you can get for cheap. He's going to give you 5-6 points on average off the bench. It's kind of like his entire career. He's been right at 5 or 6 points in about 20 minutes. So you know exactly what you're going to get from Dean Wade. I do like the size, obviously. 30 years old, I think 29, 30 years old. So right, at the peak, or maybe, just getting over the peak. But for a guy who's averaging 6 points a game, it's not going to decrease a lot from there, right? So, I think he can play D a lot better than some of these guys on the list. But it's just he's not really moving the needle much for me. So even though you get him for a bargain, I feel like I would rather use this money for someone who's going to make more of an impact. So C for me.
I think I'm gonna challenge you and try and convince you to just drop it down to a D, just because I think if we came away and Dean Wade was like, he's not starting for us. That means Tobias would be starting in your 4 position, position that was very much a position of need. I think if we came away and Dean Wade was our big addition this offseason at the 4 position, I think it would be vastly disappointing. There was talks about Trey Murphy. There was talks about all these guys that would fit perfectly, and then you come away with Dean Wade. I think it would be a massive disappointment. So that's why I'm leaning towards more of a D for him. Not necessarily as a bad player, but just that would not be a good offseason for us, I think.
For our pick, yeah. For our need, our team need. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, it's no slight to Dean Wade. He's a good player, but yeah, for what we need, yeah, it's a D.
Okay. All right, so let's get one last of these guys. I'll let you pick. So the 3 guys that we have left on our list, and again, this is just a list compiled by myself of the guys that are commonly linked to Detroit free agent-wise. We have Sandro Mamu Kashavelli, Anthony Simons, and Kelly Oubre Jr. We have time for probably one more. Thoughts on any of those guys? Do you want to break one guy down? Do you want to just real quick throw them in their tiers, leave a few guys out? How do you want to do these last 3?
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe either Anthony Simons or Kelly Oubre. just that Simons, yeah, obviously we've talked about a lot of two guards already. I think he probably slots in very similarly to some of the other guys that we broke down. But yeah, 15 points per game. It's I do like him as a player, and he's popped off at times in his career for like over 20 on higher usage. So yeah. Again, yeah, I can really only break down so many of these two guards. I do think you do need someone who can put the ball in the net alongside Cade in your backcourt. So yeah, I think that probably Simons and also Oubre. I'm probably more in the C tier for both of them. I probably should take a stand and put someone in B. Admittedly, haven't done like a ton of research on like those two guys specifically. So I'm between like B and C for both, but probably closer to C.
Okay, well then let's do this because I agree with you. I think Anthony is similar to Colin Sexton. Like he can get a bucket, but sometimes that's all he can do. And admittedly, I haven't watched all that much film of him. I'm worried about what his contract would be. Kelly Oubre, kind of similar, but just different position, like you mentioned. I'm gonna say I feel confident putting those two at C, and I'm actually going to put Sandro Mamukelashvili in the B territory. Just someone to keep an eye on. He's someone that it was played with Toronto, 6'9", just 27 years old. Someone that I don't think a lot of NBA players or NBA fans are aware of, but someone who's been quietly doing really, really well up there in Toronto. He just past year playing primarily the center position, averaged 11.2 points per game, got 10 Sixth Man of the Year votes this year. So he kind of was, for the voters, was putting up noise. 3.7 3-point attempts per game, and shot 39% from three, again as a 6'9" center 4 or 5 position. So I think that's someone that like quietly wouldn't be groundbreaking, but I think would fit this. I think you can put him at the 4 and then Duren at the 5. So my vote for these last three guys: Kelly Oubre, Anthony Simons at the C tier, and Mamukelashvili at the B tier is how I'm feeling about these.
Dude, I like it for the value too. Like Sandro,
Yes.
yeah, I do think that he's pretty slept on. I think you could probably get it done for maybe like a 2-year, $8 million per year. And yeah, and he's a guy who could probably give you 11 or 12 points. I think the value is absolutely there on Sandro. So I'm with you, man. B tier for sure, and wouldn't hate it at all if that news came breaking down that we signed him.
So, okay, this is just to break it down. If you're watching us on YouTube, you obviously can see this on screen. We'll probably put something out on social media. In the S tier, we have Norm Powell, be a home run, lights out signing. A tier, we have Rui Hachimura. B tier, Luke Kennard, Colin Sexton, Sandro Mamukelashvili. C tier, John Collins, Kelly Oubre, Anthony Simons. And then the D tier, Dean Wade would be a very underwhelming offseason if he was to be the one that we end up signing. I feel very confident in those. So tell us what you guys think. You can leave us a comment on YouTube, respond to this on social media. Let us know what you guys think about any of these tiers, and then any other guys that we didn't bring up. Where would you guys put them and add them if they were our one and only kind of addition via free agency coming up here for the Detroit Pistons? All right. Let us wrap up the show with our grits of the week. As always, Grit of the Week is brought to you guys by Pins and Aces, our favorite Colorado-based golf brand, making premium polos, head covers, and gear that perform on and off the course to stand out everywhere else. This is stuff that's made in the USA. With the 4th of July right around the corner, you can feel good about that. It's quality that you can feel. Our listeners can enjoy an exclusive discount with our promo code GRIT, that's GRIT, at checkout at pinsandaces.com for 21% off any product at pinsandaces.com. Grit of the Week, kick us off, Kyle.
I'm going with a guy, Judah, a new Piston that we talked about quite a bit on this show, but I'm high on him, and I think getting him for a steal is only better. But my Grit of the Week, I'm going with Isaiah Joe, man. I just feel like he's going to be, I'm not going to say he's going to be special by any means, but I think we're going to have a small place in our heart for Isaiah Joe after this next season. He's going to make some big shots for us. I just love a guy who can he's nails from, and yeah, still a pretty young guy too. 11 points per game last season. I do think he's going to take that jump up. Like I said, maybe 14, 15 points per game. I'm high on him. And yeah, it's the dog days of summer too. So you get a Grit of the Week without even, donning the Pistons uniform yet. But yeah, Grit of the Week, Isaiah Joe.
I'm gonna stick with the Isaiah theme and give my Grit of the Week one last time to Isaiah Stewart, Beef Stew.
Nice.
The longest tenured Piston. He put up with some of the most terrible teams I've ever seen, donning the the old Piston jersey. He is someone that we already talked about him. Just embodied Detroit. He set the tone. He was part of the driving force to bringing back the Bad Boys. He definitely crossed the line a few times on the court. Off the court, there's just story after story after story about how he's just the nicest guy in the entire world. Will do anything for anyone, the biggest heart. But once you get him on the court, it's a whole different guy. So I want to give my last grid of the week to Isaiah Stewart. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he can have great success in Memphis when we're not playing them, and then can just go live off his years farming on the West Coast like he obviously loves to do. So my last grid of the week for Isaiah Stewart. Thanks for everything, Beef Stew.
Hell yeah, dude, love Beef Stew. I'm totally with you. We said it a bunch on this show, but longest tenured Piston, he did go through absolute hell with some of our rosters that like are borderline G League at best. Came out the other side, was obviously a huge contributor to our defense specifically. Yeah, he's the man. Nothing but the best for you, Beef Stew, man. Good of the week. As Germany might be just selling right now in these penalties. So but yeah, hell yeah, Beef Stew.
Yeah, shout out to all the Isaiah Stewart, Isaiah Joe, any other Isaiahs out there in the league that we may be circling and bringing into play for us next year. We're collecting all the Isaiahs. It's like, once we have them all, then we'll be finally an Eastern Conference Finals team. But okay, that is our show. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode. You can find both Kyle and I on Twitter at Kyle_Marino and myself at Dutton_Tyler. You can follow the podcast itself on Instagram or TikTok at Gridiron Report, on Twitter at Gridiron Report 1, or you can watch these full-length episodes on YouTube at Gridiron Report. We put in, obviously, they had the graphics for our tier list, so that'll be on social media. That full length will be on our YouTube channel as well. So guys, go in there, comment on who we missed, your thoughts on the different tiers we added, anyone else and where you would put them. Finally, you can join the conversation next week by calling into the Gridiron Report voicemail for us to play and discuss on the podcast. That phone number is 313-306-7939. And then if you guys like this episode, please take a moment to rate it 5 stars. Leave us a review saying what you liked about it. Follow us on all forms of social media. We have so much more to cover over the next few weeks with all the unfortunate convictions across the cities of Detroit athletes. We had the MLB draft next week or the week after. So we have so much more stuff coming. Follow us on all forms of social media. It allows us to continue bringing Detroit sports stuff. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, y'all. Let's go Pistons.
A journey, roads paved with fire, sweat, tears, and hustle that never expire. From the rookies on the rise to the old hands retired, grit iron is the place for fans to conspire. Hustle on, blast beats, thunder and loud. Champions are born from the roar of the crowd. The Gridiron Report where the stories are proud. Tune in, bring the heat, make your fandom a vow.